In creating a niche, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. I like to think of your own brand as a solar system. As a new creator, you are starting out as that sun. So you have to figure out what it is that you want to talk about online, that you can talk about online until it gains enough press or notoriety or kind of following so that you can continue to expand.
It's Buffer Chat time, friends in our virtual studio and folks listening at home. A very warm, buffery welcome to you. I'm so excited to be spending some time with you today. My name is Kirsti Lang. I am a senior content writer at Buffer. And since this is episode 1, I wanted to share just a little context on what we are doing here and why. So, if you're a longtime fan of Buffer, you'll likely have heard of Buffer Chat, which are theme conversations we have helped facilitate with our customers and community back when X was still Twitter and more recently on Threads. We've experimented with inviting experts in various areas as special guests on the chat, and this show is kind of an iteration of that. So, the goal, as is everything we do at Buffer, is to help small businesses and creators do good while doing well. And that is exactly what Buffer Chat, the podcast, is all about. I'm going to be hosting various experts in areas of social media to help you learn and grow and achieve social media success, whatever that may look like for you. So we're going to keep things flexible and see where this journey takes us. But as of right now, the plan is to help creators, social media managers, marketers, small business owners, basically everybody that Buffer serves. But yeah, as I said, we'll see where this journey takes us. So, without further ado, our very special first guest is someone who I have been following for ages. And I'm honestly a little starstruck right now. I'm really grateful that Gigi Robinson hopped on the call earlier so that I could kind of get all my awkwardness out of the way. Hopefully, it doesn't come back. I'm going to try and rein it in. Gigi, thank you so much for making time to chat with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I also have been using Buffer for quite some time for a lot of my clients, and I'm experimenting with using it for my own social platforms, which is very needed considering I run Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, just for myself. And then
I'm exhausted just
yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have, I think, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook for my puppy. So that's 10 channels right there that I am not always consistent on. And we will talk about that later. But
Exactly.
I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think you're doing an incredible job. We've just been talking about Snapchat, and Gigi was telling me that she has how many followers there?
I
200,000?
have about 223,000 followers over there, and I just do a lot of quirky, random, like day in the life content. That's what people want to see. They want to just see that I'm like doing stuff.
Going to the White House.
Casually, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting off track. I want to give Gigi a proper introduction. So Gigi is a creator, economy educator and speaker, a chronic illness activist and author, and of course, a phenomenal creator who is a delight to follow across platforms. I'm going to go and re-download Snapchat just so that I can follow you. Um, okay.
Understandable.
Gigi, let's get right in and talk about your journey to becoming a creator. When and where did you start? Let's go back to day one.
Well, if we're actually going back to day one, it seems like Instagram was officially launched like 14 or 15 years ago at this
Oh
point,
my
which is
gosh,
kind of
I'm so
wild.
old.
I know. And so I'm pretty sure I was on that bandwagon. I think I was about 12 years old when that happened, if that was 2010. And I downloaded it just as a way to like be social, like everyone else. I was posting pictures of my Halloween candy, whatever, nothing special. Then
Yeah.
fast forward to high school, where I was actually starting to take photography very seriously. I was entering national, local, international photography competitions for portraiture and for landscape. And specifically, I would do nighttime photography, like outside with the stars and with beautiful landscapes. I know this is like a crazy
I love
thing
this.
that you guys
This
never
is
knew
such a
about
fun
me.
fact. Yeah.
And I just started posting my photos online because I was like, one, really excited about getting and winning these
Mm.
local competitions, but two, like I had my artwork in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in their You're a Center of Education 3 or 4 times throughout my high school career, which was crazy because you had to compete to get into that competition. And I think it just also gives, at least looking back, it gives me insight to like my work ethic back then and how I've scaled the way I've scaled since.
Mm.
Because in high school, for a high schooler to really put effort and dedication into applying to competitions is actually a lot of work on top of creating the work, on top of being a student. And so I would post about this stuff online again, not really seriously, not taking it seriously. Then the time comes where I'm starting to apply to colleges. And I was like, I'm going to be a photography major. I want to be in a big city and I want to create movie posters or have my photos in magazines. I think that would be epic. And so I went to USC in Los Angeles and I joined a social media club called USC Reach my first semester, founded by creators. You can research all about them. They've since developed to over, I think, 150 college campuses, and
That's
they
amazing.
are scaling college content creators. So it's really cool. And I was in the first inaugural class of that ever. So that was also really cool to be a part of.
Hmm.
And the reason they admitted me was because of my ability to kind of grow and scale my photography content on my social media. But then I started getting opportunities to shoot more like commercials for brands, but they didn't want content for, a billboard. They wanted content for Facebook ads and they wanted content for Instagram, like a whitelisting ads where you don't see who it's coming from, but you see the ad and you click it
Mm.
and it's the purchase page. And so one day someone didn't show up for the shoot and I stepped in and then they paid me extra because I stepped in. And I was like, oh, I'm getting paid almost the same amount just for being in the content. Like, I'm sure I could charge for both creating and being in the content. So that was really where everything started. And then, similarly to my high school self, instead of applying for competitions, I then started applying to these college brand ambassador programs where you would essentially be doing guerrilla marketing, field marketing, digital
Mm.
and social media marketing, and also be just the face of the brand. So I worked with Abercrombie and Fitch, Tinder, TikTok, Timberland, Smashbox, Amazon Prime, and a couple
Wow.
others that I don't remember. I am so sorry if you hear a dog. I'm
The
so
dog, the dog is very welcome because he is also a creator, or she is also a creator. So
yes, yeah.
she,
Actually,
yeah.
that was my mom's dog, but yeah, she's a
Oh,
guest on the Zeke's
okay.
page. Absolutely. So, long story short, sorry, I'm just gonna put her away. Do you mind pausing for a
No,
sec?
of course, of course. This is the beauty of live events. I can fix this in editing, but the 5 or 6 people that are currently watching, hi everyone. If you have any questions for Gigi, do it. Go ahead and pop them in the chat. If the chat is active, I do need to go and check that. Hosts and pan. Nope. Okay, I've just changed it so that everyone can talk in the chat. I'm really glad
Oh,
that you
cool.
actually took a
That's
break so that I
awesome.
can fix that. Sorry,
Um,
everyone.
so yeah, so sorry about the dogs. If you have dogs, if you know, you know. Um, and so yeah, long story short, I started doing all these brand ambassadorships. By 2020, during COVID, I had done 13 brand ambassadorships with
Wow.
huge companies, which is unheard of. Again, these were very interesting because at the time I was being paid hourly, like $15 an hour for this brand ambassador field marketing position to throw events on campus, deliver and seed product on campus, post about this as well. I
Mm.
think some of them at the time were like $150 for a social post at the time. And again, I had less than 5,000 followers during all of this. So, I think, when you put it into that perspective, it's like it was a different world 6 years ago in social media. It's completely
Yeah.
different now. And so COVID happened. I came home, I started growing, and I was like, I'm making a lot of money with this. Like, I should probably set up an LLC. So I set up an LLC right after I graduated. And I told my parents that I was going to do full-time content creation. I asked for their permission to live at home with them until I could get on my feet and save enough to move out, which I will say, full disclaimer, did take me 4.5 years to do in order to pay off my student loans
Yeah.
home and make enough to pay a whole team to work with me over the years throughout different kinds of moments. And my content's definitely evolved over time. We'll get more into the niche stuff in a bit, and I'll talk more about the evolution, I guess, of my content. But that's really the
Yes.
story of how it all started.
I love that. That is a fascinating origin story. And I do also just want to say that I think I lived with my parents for a good 5 years after
Yeah,
finishing uni. So yeah, I mean,
is
you got
what
to
it
do what you got
is.
to do. And yeah, I think my dad called me a boomerang kid because I kept coming back. Um, so yeah, absolutely no shade on that one. All right. So this conversation, as you all will know from the title that we went with, is something. So we want to talk about niches, or content pillars or niches, I think some people call them. And it's such a fundamental part of social media advice or social media marketing. And it seems easy to define your niche, but it's actually not. And this is something that I'm grappling with myself. So I'm really interested to hear Gigi's take on this, especially because Gigi, you are a multi hyphenate. And as we just heard, someone with a lot of depth and a lot going on. And yeah, so defining what you are going to be known for um, is not easy. So first, I'd love to kind of open up, with your kind of social expertise, dealing with clients, dealing with your own socials. How would you define what a niche is?
I would say it's really the thing that you are creating content about online.
Mm,
Now, obviously, that's a broad blanket statement, but I will say that in doing that, wait, I lost the window. Oh my God, what happened? Sorry. It completely disappeared. The Zoom just disappeared for a second.
oh,
Um, and in creating a niche, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. I
mm,
think that a lot of creators think I am a beauty and lifestyle creator. That is all I have to do. Or I'm going to do Amazon influencer stuff. That is all I'm going to do. Or I'm a health advocate. That's all I can do. And I think the days where that worked are long gone. I think that was, 2018 to 2022, maybe at most.
mm,
The past couple years, I think we've really seen creators start going from a creator who built themselves up as a media personality in one way. And I'm saying media personality because when you look at your business as a creator, as a company, as a business, as a media personality, you're actually able, in my opinion, to get a more bird's eye view of your vision long term. And what I
mm,
mean by that is like I started running my business as a media personality who talked about chronic illness, right? As I did that, I was able to also show what I was doing as a day in the life, being invited to events as a result of talking about being a chronic illness advocate and activist.
mm,
And so, in doing that, I was showing my passion for lifestyle content, which is where brands started paying me to then create content about my health all the time online.
mm,
I'm like, okay, okay. I just want to talk about like fashion or beauty or cooking, and I should be able to do that. And because I built an audience that trusted my voice, it didn't matter that I switched the content up. It doesn't
mm,
matter that all of a sudden I was posting travel content. It didn't matter that all of a sudden I was posting content like of my dog, you know? And I think that when you're defining your niche, you have to start somewhere and then
mm,
you can grow and grow and grow. I like to think of your own brand as a solar system. So again, like I'm the sun, I'm central, right? And all of these niches and little parts of it, whether I'm doing public speaking, that's one planet, right? Then I'm doing right like my author era, like writing,
Mm,
that's another planet. Then I'm doing my chronic illness awareness. Then I'm doing my content creation. I'm doing my social media marketing. And as a new creator, you are starting out as that sun. So you have to figure out what it is that you want to talk about online, that you can talk about online until it gains enough press or notoriety or kind of following so that you can continue to expand.
mm.
I think a lot of people sometimes look at my content, they're like, oh my God, you're a creator. How amazing. And I'm like, I've literally been a creator since 2018, and I'm really only seeing good money 2 years after doing it full time. The
Oh,
first two
wow.
years, it was really, I think I was in that range of like under 100K of making $100,000 a year from my social media. And when you're a small business, you have to think about other things like taxes, which if you're self-employed, you're giving away about 30% of that. You have to think about your expenses and or your team, which
Mm,
usually falls into expenses, which is usually another 30%. And then you're left with the other 30%, which depending on how much you made, may or may not be that much money. So you really, I think, have to think about it again in a business instead of I'm just going to post online and see what happens. Some people
mm,
do that. Some people blow up. Some people got signed to big agencies and see a lot of money. That's what happens. But that is the exception, not the rule. The rule, in my opinion, should be that creators, if they want to be self-employed as a creator, have to work their butt off to build in a certain way so that they are seen as a thought leader and a figure of authority
mm.
in their niche, so that then in their original niche, so that then they can expand and be multifaceted. And I don't
Okay.
think creators are going to survive if they stick to one thing, given the state of social media today.
I love that take. That's really nuanced because it seems so from what I'm understanding, there are two kind of steps in this. You, as a new creator, you do need to kind of niche down, figure out
Yeah,
what you're talking about, become, I like that you use the word thought leader as well. It's almost as you're building your audience, you're getting folks invested. So, as you said, people cared about you and your life enough to become invested in these other planets that
right.
you had in your solar system. So that's a great take. And I think being strategic about that initially is really
Yeah,
what I want to talk to you about, that like early phase of your journey. So
yeah.
how did you, was it a case for you? I mean, it was quite early in the realm of social media that time, right? So there wasn't like, there's not really a roadmap to follow at that point. Were you very strategic about this is what I am going to focus on because this is what's working? Or was it a case of figuring out, okay, this is maybe where I want to be? How did you approach things back then?
I honestly think it was both. It was doing a lot of experimental, product content, which did go
Mm,
viral. Like I bought some face masks and would do like face mask reviews during
yeah, I've
COVID,
seen
right?
those.
But that only came after I had been talking about the struggle of being in college with an invisible health condition that teachers didn't believe and that friends didn't believe and that ruined friendships and that, was inherently ableist in the academic system
Mm,
and that at a big prestigious university was not taken seriously. And
mm,
I was so frustrated. And in sharing my experience, other people really started to be like, oh my God, like, that's so messed up. I hate to say it, but I'm a part of the community of people that just chooses not to say anything with my health issues because I'm
mm,
scared of this reaction. And so it was a mixture of doing a lot of experimentation, right? There's never a formula or a roadmap to follow, in my opinion. You have to find what works for you. A day in the life vlog may work for one creator, and a get ready with me is going to work for another. And if either of those creators created the opposite kind of video on their page, it probably wouldn't perform well. And that's because they built an audience that ended up gaining that trust with them. When I was in the early stages, I was just doing what was working. And for some brands, as I mentioned, that was reviewing products in a really aesthetic way.
Mm.
Then I also started incorporating my story into it. So I would talk about a skincare product as I was showing these really aesthetic clips of it. And I would talk about how doing skincare made me feel really like confident and
Yeah.
inspired and proud to have whatever hydrated skin. And that was kind of how brands started working with me. And just showing also the reality of being a creator. Like, I think there's some videos, if I go back to 2020, where I was just showing the behind the scenes setup of filming a YouTube video, or a behind the scenes setup of my podcast, or a behind the scenes setup of how I ended up landing a brand deal. And because I was doing that original content where I was experimenting, brands started
Mm.
paying me, and then people started being interested in how I was getting paid to do what I had been doing.
Yeah.
Then my content shifted, and I think that's normal. I think there's a huge misconception that a lifestyle creator stays a lifestyle creator, or a health creator stays a health creator, or makeup creator stays a makeup creator.
Mm.
I think that it's 100% imperative for a creator to be multi-hyphenate and to branch out and to have these lofty dreams and goals of becoming a speaker or writing a book or hosting a show or hosting red carpet events, because it can happen. I've seen it happen for my friends. I've seen it happen for other creators in the industry. And usually it just takes perseverance and time. And this is not something that happens overnight. A lot of creators
Mm.
say, I want to host red carpets. What's your hosting experience? Do you have any? What's your history with making viral content? What's your history in making viral interview content? If you don't have that, you are probably not going to get picked to do a red carpet hosting job. And so it's partly your skill set and building up that Rolodex of skills into your, skills library.
Mm.
And it's also networking and knowing the right people,
Sounds a lot like a
which
non-creator career. There are a lot of parallels here. I'm feeling like in marketing or yeah, any kind of
absolutely,
traditional, yeah, you got to upskill, you got to network.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Gigi, I had like three more questions, but you've literally answered so many of them already. I want to go kind of move away from niches for a little bit. I mean, unless niches is something that you want to talk about now. But say you were starting from scratch today, how would you, yeah, how would you go about figuring out a strategy? What would you do differently, knowing everything that you know now?
Yeah, so I actually am in the process of doing this for multiple clients, which is really cool. And
Amazing.
some of them are in very unique fields, such as like the pet industry or like the real estate industry. And so scaling those kinds of accounts are rather specific. I
Mm.
do have experience scaling a pet account, but when you have to do it with the intention to sell something, when it's for a
Mm.
business, the strategy has to be different because there's different rules for business marketing versus individual marketing. So, I think reading up and knowing all the information is like the first thing you can do, especially let's say I'm going to talk to social media marketers here right now, not necessarily
Mm.
creators. You have to do your homework. There is, I think, a certain amount of fake it till you make it that works. But when you are getting paid to do social media management or UGC or being an in-house creator for a brand or a company, you really have to make sure you understand all of their products and all of their offerings and all of the rules and parameters that go around that. For example, in real estate, there's a lot of specific words that you can't say in marketing, or you'll get like a very lofty fine.
Okay,
So
please tell me what one of these words are. I'm so curious.
yeah, you can look it up. It's like real estate and mortgage trigger words.
Oh, I
And
see. Okay.
yeah, and so
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm sure it exists for other industries, but at least for one of my clients, I have to be very careful in creating a content strategy and in
That's
creating
so
scripts
interesting.
for their team to make because they just don't know a single thing about social media. And they're like, we want to help people, we want to scale, we want to make sure that we're like a trusted authority in this industry online. And so you have to think about how to really build and scale in a way that is going to work for that individual. And it's hard, but it takes about a month, in my opinion, to get that knowledge, build up a content Rolodex, and then start scheduling it out so that you're at least 2 weeks to a month ahead.
Oh, I
And
like that.
yeah, I've really noticed that that has been instrumental in helping our content perform because when you can just create it, you are taking away any stress about thinking about creating it and you can just focus on more ideas flowing. So that's for the businesses. If I were to restart as a creator today, I mean, here's the advice I've given to some of my friends. Think about what you want to do in 5 years. Where do you want
Mm,
your social media presence and or your business that you're starting as a kind of proxy of your social media to be in 5 years? What's your goal? Speaking, books, um, you know, just brand partnerships, extra money, side hustle, running a clothing brand. I mean, you just have to figure out what it is and figure out ways to talk about that online. Again, experiment. There is no magic formula. There is no amount of specificity that I can give you right now
no,
that would
Gigi, I was hoping for it.
necessarily work because it's different.
Mm,
Something that works for a creator talking about the workplace is going to be different than the advice I would give to someone making content about veganism, is different than the content that someone would be making about being a dog mom, is different than the content that you would be making about a mortgage company. And so you have to just look, research, and test. There's a really great book called Steal Like an Artist. It's a very famous book.
hmm
And, I think ideas are not, if you think that your idea is original, it's probably not because a majority of people have had your idea and they've either tried it and failed or they've tried it and succeeded. So if you research what that is in your industry, and we have tools like AI, like ChatGPT now, to easily scrape the internet and help us figure out what like our narrow like I guess vision should be in terms of our niche. I I just think that no one's ideas are original and you just have to take a chance and see what works. I wish I had a more concrete answer, but yeah, I really think that just testing, there's nothing I can say to growth hack except
mm,
also the one thing I will say, whether you're doing it through a content scheduling platform like Buffer or you are doing it on your own or you're manually posting, I think it's like 3 times a week, so about 12 posts per month on Reels and or TikTok and or adding photo posts in there too, is apparently secret sauce to making
mm.
growth happen. And I've heard this from individuals at certain companies that shall not be named right now, but I think you know what I'm
Interesting.
talking
Okay, we
about.
got some secret sauce. Yes, I love that. Okay, no, I love all of that advice. So testing, figuring out what works. I also love your point about reverse engineering where you want to get to. That's not something that I've heard someone frame that way before, and that's a really cool way of looking at it. I love that. And then consistency effectively is what you've shared as well.
Yeah,
Okay, I know we're pretty much up against time here, but Sabrine had two amazing questions, Gigi. I hope you don't mind. Um,
sure.
Gigi, really awesome to see you making such big ripples. She is indeed. Scaling on social is like handling a lock with many tumblers. Which
Yes.
tumblers did you turn and in which sequence to grow and unlock the potential the way you did?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on this a little earlier. I think maybe this question came before
Yeah.
I went
Yeah. Yeah.
through
Yeah.
my story really in depth, but I would say I did take it pretty much one day at a time. I was doing mostly brand partnerships, and in 2021, after almost a full year of doing, or a half a year of doing um, content creation full time, I started getting asked to speak on webinars. It was still COVID, so brands were doing all kinds of
Oh, they
virtual
loved a
events.
webinar.
And I spoke at Advertising Week virtually with Meta, and then I spoke at Her Campus conference. And then in 2021, I worked with Reuters on a patient advocacy pharma conference that they held. And then after that, it just kind of started snowballing. And in 2022, I had taken a chance and applied to the Sports Illustrated open casting call with the intent to advocate for and be representation for women with chronic illness if I were to get chosen. And I did get chosen to be a part of that during that year. So I'm in the 2022 magazine, which is really cool.
That is
And
incredible.
I think in many ways that opportunity did lead to a lot of other kind of projects and things coming up.
Mm,
And it then led to an increased amount of patient advocacy, which then led me to speak at Yale and Harvard and Columbia in 2023 and attend the White House a couple of times because of my work. And so I don't know if that was the specific answer, but it takes time and you have to trust that it works. I mean, was I expecting to ever receive an email in my inbox from a, .whitehouse.gov email that
I would have
says,
thought it was a spam email. I would have been like,
I
they're trying to
literally
get
did.
me.
I literally thought it was fake. And I, was floored. I was like, oh my God, like, why do they think I should be here? And then I realized I should be here. I've been putting in this effort for so many years, and I'm getting recognition at literally like one of the highest levels you can get recognition at. And so it took time. There's no easy answer to it. Yes, there are the Alex Earls of the world that blow up overnight and they get lucky and they end up making a lot of money very quickly and they're hot and they have millions of followers and that happens, but that is the exception to the rule. We know
Absolutely.
that 4%, only 4% of content creators are making over $100,000 per year.
Wow. But then I would
Yeah.
imagine like the 4%, like on that higher end, like there's a
Yes.
lot more than $100,000 probably happening on
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
1%. Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I know creators with millions of followers that are not even bringing in $100,000 because
Wow.
they either don't care about brand deals or they just care about the TikTok Creator Fund or they just, aren't making money or
Mm,
they went viral and then their content just plateaued and they've stayed at that, million or 2 million follower mark. And that just is a result of hitting success and then giving up and or getting lazy, in my opinion. Because if you keep pushing, you can get there. I'm not saying that you'll get 2 million followers easily because it takes years, and I've seen it take years for many creators, but that is also a part of the process and a part of the
mm.
journey in getting to where you want to go and building the media company you want to build. And I am saying it as a media company because, again, not enough creators are thinking about content creation as a business or as a personal brand. They're thinking about it in terms of just posting online and seeing what happens instead of reverse engineering where they want their business to be with revenue targets and a business plan.
Oh, I love that. That's such a clippy moment. I was like, okay, she's going to say something good now. Don't say
Yeah.
anything. Don't say anything. Like, because I so often do that, and then my little hms and hs are like interrupting the clip.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some great questions here, but Laura, you have an amazing one. Because we're up against time. This is the last one I'm going to put to you, Gigi. If you were going to start from scratch and on only one platform today, so in the same niche that you're currently in, and only pick one platform, which one would it be?
Ooh, hard question. I think Instagram still.
Mm,
That's the platform I started with. That's the platform that I trust. That's the platform that I think a vast majority of people go to. Obviously, TikTok has the potential to help you scale, to help you get a lot of views, to help you sell in certain ways. But I do think Instagram, especially if you're starting kind of with the intention to become more of a thought leader. I do think TikTok is a supplement to Instagram and not the other way around.
mm,
Mostly because I think Instagram, because I mean, yes, TikTok has the photo posts and everything, but Instagram's just the OG. That's like, I don't really have any other way to say it. It's kind of
mm.
just like Instagram has been here for 15 years and TikTok has been around for less, like 6 years maybe.
And
And
there's the US government issue ban potential thing happening there. Yep. So fair.
I would also say start posting on LinkedIn. I know you asked for one platform, but LinkedIn is one of my
We love
favorites.
LinkedIn.
Um, I've built a lot of my marketing network and creator economy expert kind of field through LinkedIn. And so I know that there's a lot more money to be spent on LinkedIn in terms of brand partnerships, but I am still not really seeing that yet happen. It's only happening for creators with, 50 to 100 or 500,000 followers on LinkedIn, which
Mm.
does exist and you just have to kind of ride the waves. But I've gotten a couple brand deals on LinkedIn. It's just not as frequent as I would like for someone with almost 20,000 followers. It's kind of
Mm.
crazy. But it is what it is. And
It does feel
yeah,
like it's coming. It feels like that
I think
wave
it's,
is kind of crashing
yeah.
on LinkedIn right
And
now.
you have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stay consistent there too, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just like post about my career on LinkedIn, it's much more than that. And I mean, LinkedIn does have video, which take it or leave it, but
Yeah.
video seems to be doing pretty well on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm going to have Tammy on the podcast to talk about Tammy's in the audience to talk about her LinkedIn videos because they are absolutely blowing up. It is wild. Okay.
Yeah.
No more
Should we
tangents,
answer this
Kirsty.
one more question?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wait. So we have got two. We've got one from Sabrine about
Yes.
creating content for business owners to help them with creative ways to manage their taxes. I think that's a great supplementary niche.
Yeah, I mean, definitely supplementary niche. I'm not giving financial advice by any means. Talk to your accountant 100%. Like, take this with a grain of salt. But as a creator, depending on what kind of creator you are, you can write off a lot. And by that, I mean, you can write off travel. So, if you go on an international trip and you're creating content at the hotels that you're staying at, or on the plane, or in the different towns that you're in, can you write those things off? Technically, you can.
Let's work.
So I think it's about figuring out kind of what you can do, but I would say leave your write-offs to be about like 20% of your total income for the year. Don't make it more because then you're going to get audited and then they're going to be like, you're crazy, probably. I mean, I've never been audited, knock on wood.
Oh, I get
But
audited every
you know,
time. South African
yeah.
tax is scary.
And yeah, I mean, I think other things like getting your nails done, getting your hair done, getting meals if you're on a business call or a coffee meeting. I mean, all of those things do technically count as expenses. Obviously, then there's subscription fees to things like Buffer, QuickBooks, if some people pay for Meta Verified, those are all also things. And is there an easy way to manage it? I personally use QuickBooks, but I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a great that's a because I'm thinking I need some sort of platform to do this. I'm going to check out QuickBooks. I've
QuickBooks.
heard good things. Okay, so Laura has asked, have you read Fourth Wing, Gigi, before we
No,
ask this question? Okay,
I have not,
so
but I'll check it out.
okay, definitely check it out. It's a great book. I know Haley, who's probably also on the call, is a big fan. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna move on past that one. I'm sorry, Laura. I will hop into the Discord afterwards and share my thoughts because I have many feelings about about Fourth Wing. Alrighty. Okay, Gigi, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It has been
Welcome.
wonderful. We will, of course, be including all of your links and handles in the captions in the show notes. But if folks want to connect right now, where is the best place to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Gigi Robinson. I think it says Masters of Science, like MS and BFA in my title, and there's a little photo of me like. So you should be able to find it pretty easily. I also can be found with the at symbol, the word it's, and then Gigi Robinson. So it's Gigi Robinson on all social media platforms, and I'm verified everywhere, so you can't miss me. Except I'm not verified on Twitter because Elon Musk took it away.
I
So.
mean, we have feelings about
True.
that, which we
We have
won't get into.
feelings about Twitter, but I stopped posting on Twitter shortly after that because I was like, is anyone even on this
Yeah.
platform? And
I
Threads is
mean,
honestly great. Just from being on Threads, I've gained almost 9,000 followers just from being there. So
that's amazing. Oh man. Okay. I wish that was a tangent we could go down. Maybe next time.
totally. Next time.
Love threads. Big fan of threads, big fan of LinkedIn. Okay, all of these things. Amazing. As I mentioned at the outset of the show, this episode is the first of many, and I have some equally amazing guests lined up in the coming weeks. So do keep an eye on Buffer's channels for that. And we'll, of course, be sharing for all the folks hanging out in the audience. We'll be sharing the recording of this on YouTube soon. And all of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, Kirsty, my English is breaking. I need to end this call. All of the various podcast platforms. But yeah, thank you so much, Gigi. It's been wonderful.